Today we're going to be reviewing place value. We have a place value chart in our classroom that's over by our calendar area. It's where we count the days of school. And if you remember on that red chart, we have the ones place, the tens place, and the hundreds place to represent 3-digit numbers for the days that we've been in school. Let's think for just a minute about how money is a lot like place value. How much is 1 penny worth? It's worth 1 cent. And how much is 1 dime worth? It's worth 10 cents. So how many pennies would it take to equal 1 dime? It would take 10. So in this respect, the penny is a lot like the ones place. It takes 10 ones to change into 1 10. What about dollars and dimes? Remember, the dime is worth 10 cents. How many dimes would it take to equal $1? That would be counting by tens. If you count by tens, you're going to need 10 dimes to equal the same thing as 100 cents or $1. Remember, you can write that in cents notation or in dollars and cents notation. This would be a lot like changing a 10 into 100 on the place value chart. So money is a lot like place value when we're talking about ones, tens, and hundreds. Remember, on our place value chart, we have the ones place. I'll write an O for ones. We have the tens place, a T for tens, and we have the hundreds place. And if we have 9 ones in the ones place, that's fine. But as soon as we get 10, we can't have 10 in the ones place, so we have to trade those and make it a 10. And then if we have 9 tens in the tens place, that's perfectly fine. But we can't have 10. If we have 10 tens, we've got to take those and make it a 100. So let's look at the base 10 blocks that you're used to seeing. We have the ones, we have the tens, and we have the hundreds. And the reason we call these ones, tens, and hundreds is this is a representation of 1, the number 1, 1 digit, 1 thing. The tens place is a representation of the number 10, and it actually is taking 10 ones and stacking them on top of each other to make one group of 10. Then we have the tens, and if we take 10 of those and put them together, those are a representation of 1 100. And it's actually the same thing as 100 ones. So if that's the case, how much do you think 10 of the hundreds, or flats as we sometimes call them, are worth? If I had 10 of these, what number would I have? Think about it and write it down on your slate. Let's check that problem. Remember, here's the ones place, the tens place, and the hundreds place. So far, I have 9 hundreds. I'm going to add 1 more to make 10. Remember, it's not okay to have 10 hundreds in the same place. We can't have those in the hundreds place. So I'm going to have to take those and trade them to the next place on our place value chart. Place value keeps going. Not only is there a ones place, a tens place, a hundreds, but there's also, do you know what this place is called? It's the thousands place. I'm going to put TH for thousands. And in that place, that's what would happen if we were to take that 10 hundreds. So here's the last one, 10. Remember, we can't have 10. That's not going to work. But we can take all of those and squish them together into one big group. And it would turn into 1,000. We represent 1,000 with a cube, so I'm going to draw a cube. It's a big cube, and it actually is 1,000 ones. 1,000 ones. It's also the same as 10 hundreds. 10 hundreds. So these have now turned into 1,000. Anybody know how to write the number 1,000? Try it on your slate. You would need a 1, a comma, a 0 in the hundreds place, a 0 in the tens place, and a 0 in the ones place. And now you have the number 1,000. So erase your slate completely, and let's talk a little bit about these 3-digit numbers. 3 places, remember, ones, tens, and hundreds. If I were to ask you to write a number that has a 5 in the hundreds place, a 3 in the tens place, and a 2 in the ones place, what would you write? You should write the number 532. What would happen if I now had 4 places instead of 3? Remember, I've got the ones, the tens, the hundreds, and now the thousands place. What if I asked you to write a number that had a 1 in the thousands place, a 7 in the hundreds place, a 1 in the tens place, and a 0 in the ones place? Write that on your slate. You should have 1, comma, 710. Anytime we write a number that has more than 3 places, more than ones, tens, and hundreds, it's very important to put a comma after the first 3 numbers. And actually, you would continue going. Beyond the thousands place, there are even more places. And once we get to the 10,000s and the 100,000s, we would have to put another comma after every 3 places. But you just need to remember, every time you write more than 3 numbers, you've got to have that comma before you write the next number. When you look at this number, 1,710, what number is in the hundreds place? It would be the 7. What number is in the ones place? It would be the 0. And you've got ones both in the tens and the thousands place, but those represent different things. This represents one group of 10, and this represents one group of 1,000. What's the biggest possible number that you can make out of these 4 digits? Let's not think of them as the number 1,710, but instead as individual digits. So we have a 7, a 1, and a 0. What's the biggest number that you can make out of those 4 digits? Write it on your slate. Well, you would start with the biggest number. You can make 7,000, 110. Let's practice counting by tens. When we count by tens, you are changing the tens place in your number, no matter how big or small your number is. So for example, if I put a 1-digit number, the number 9, and I'm counting by tens, I'm changing the tens place. If I look at this number, I actually don't have a tens place. There's a 0 there. So what would the next number be? 10 more than 9. You should have 19. Let's try a different number. What if I asked you to count by tens from the number 23. Remember, when you're counting by tens, you're changing the tens place. And if I'm counting forward by tens, all that happens is I'm changing that tens place by 1. So what comes next? Write it on your slate. You should have 33. Let's try one more number. What if my number was 1,712? What number would be 10 more? Well, first thing you have to do is find the tens place. And there it is. So the number that would be 10 more is 1,722 instead of 1,712. Look at this page. I'm going to pick a 2-digit number to write in standard form. That is the form that you normally see for a number. My number is going to be 52. Then I'm going to think about that number and write it in different ways. If I think about that number in tens and ones, I have 5 tens and 2 ones. If I think about that number in a written way, the number is 52. And that's in words. If I think about it in base 10 blocks, I would have 5 tens and 2 ones. And I just used lines and dots to represent my tens and ones. And then if I think about it in terms of a more or less box, I put 52 in the middle. 1 more than 52 is 53. 1 less than 52 is 51. 10 more than 52 is 62. And 10 less than 52 is 42. You're going to do this same thing with one of the pages from the middle of the table. Get your pencil, choose a number, any 2-digit number to write in standard form, and then fill out the rest of the boxes on the page. Take this, glue it into your math notebook, and you are done for the lesson. You have now become a place value expert.